Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Wanderlust Wednesdays. This is the weekly webinar series in which we take you on a fantastic voyage all around the world. My name is Lori Overton. I am the owner of Overton Travel, and I'm also your host for this webinar series. Today, everybody, I hope you're ready. We're going to one of my favorite places in the entire U.S. This year, we're going to focus a little more on domestic travel. And if we're going to stay in the U.S., we have to go to Napa Valley. Napa Valley, California is just phenomenal. Particularly in this time, it is a great place to go to kind of just slow down the pace a little bit. It's located just an hour outside of San Francisco, but it is literally a world away. So it's a great place to go to not feel congested, to kind of get a small town feel. It's a great place to go for wellness. And of course, if you know me, it's a great place to go to enjoy a nice glass of wine. So before we go any further, I just wanted to do some housekeeping notes for some of you who may be new to the webinar format. Just to let you know, this is slightly different than a meeting format. You can see me and you'll be able to see the presenters, but we cannot see or hear you. So in order for you to communicate with us, we ask that you please put all your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and then we will go through your questions at the end of the presentation. Our moderator is Donna Snyder, and you will see her providing instructions in the Q&A box and also the chat box. You also have a chat box. Please use the chat box just to say hi, to say hello to your friends who come on every week. And if you have just a general comment, put that in the chat box. But if you have a question, put it in the Q&A box. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Teresa Savage. She will be our speaker for this, our presenter for this afternoon. She is from Visit Napa Valley, and she is coming to us straight from Napa Valley, California. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn this over to Teresa right now.
Thank you, Lori. How is everyone today? I'm going to share my screen and show you where we're at in the Napa Valley. Okay. So my name is Teresa, and I am with Visit Napa Valley. We're the Destination Marketing Organization, Tourism Board, if you want, or CVB, so other people call us that. We are here to promote the Napa Valley and to help educate you as travel agents to help bring your clients to the Napa Valley. I'm going to start my presentation with a video to inspire you guys. Everybody ready to go to Napa Valley now? I know. I am looking forward to being out in those wide open spaces myself with the governor and the county giving the hotels and the wineries and the restaurants the green lights to reopen. Things are starting to buzz along in the Napa Valley, so we're pretty excited about that. As Lori mentioned, we are just 50 miles from San Francisco. We're about an hour and 15 from San Francisco Airport. Oakland Airport is about an hour, and Sacramento Airport is about an hour and 15 as well. So that's our proximity in the Northern California area. And these are the towns that you will find in the Napa Valley. I know oftentimes people say to me, oh my gosh, I was just in Napa, I was at Healdsburg. And I say, well, that's Sonoma County just over the hill. We are so close to the Sonoma County area, just 20 minutes from downtown Napa to downtown Sonoma. So it's easily confused. But I wanted to point out the areas that are in the Napa County area. So Calistoga, St. Helena, Yountville, Napa, and American Canyons are the major towns. And then of course, Rutherford and Oakville and Lake Berryessa are different areas within the county. We have over 400 wineries in the valley and 150 restaurants, as well, 130 accommodations. So we'll get more into all that stuff in just a minute. First, I wanted to talk about what makes the Napa Valley so special. You know, there's many different wine regions around the world and specifically popping up in the California area. And what really sets the Napa Valley apart is a lot of what you've seen in that video, and it's mostly our climate and our terrain and the beauty that is located in this area. One thing to note as well, from Calistoga area to the American Canyon region, it's only 35 miles. So it's a very short, it's a very intimate, small area. Each town is about 15 minutes apart. So you can meander through the town. You could stay in Napa and then head up to Calistoga for the day. You could even stay in Napa and go do some wine tasting in the Sonoma area as well. But what really sets the Napa Valley apart is the hospitality. You know, we're very fortunate to have the culinary here, and that is largely due to the Culinary Institute of America. It has 2 campuses here, which I'll get into a little bit later. And so there's a lot of draw to chefs in the culinary world, as well as with the climate and the terrain. There's a lot of great produce and such that grows in the area as well. And it is an area that draws well-known brands. You know, we have Four Seasons coming on board at the end of the year. We have, you know, the Auberge chain, Las Alcobas, which is a luxury collection with Marriott. So a lot of the top hoteliers in the world want to have some product here as well. And then the wellness, which is amazing because of the climate. And of course, as Lori mentioned, the wine, it's delicious. Going back into how small and rural we are, each town in the Napa Valley, other than the city of Napa, is about 3,000 to 7,000 people. The city of Napa itself has about 75,000 people, and the full county only 150. So very, very small rural towns with the agrarian community type feel. You know, the winemakers are literally farmers. You know, they're growing their crops of grapes, and it's very small and rural. Now I'm going to talk to you about the different towns and which travelers and that would be ideal for those locations. For American Canyon, this is the first town that you would come to from the San Francisco or the Bay Area or Sacramento. That's the first town because we have those two mountain ranges, you can't kind of cut through and get to Yountville or St. Helena too easily. You have to come in through the base of the valley, and that is American Canyon. So this is literally on the top part of the San Francisco Bay Area. There's lots of open spaces. There's a bird estuary. That's where the Napa River comes into the valley, and lots of value proposition properties. It is in fact more of a bedroom community, a neighborhood type with limited service properties there. The city of Napa, this is a picture of the Napa River right on the area that's called the riverfront. This area was developed about 10 years ago. And prior to that, not a lot of people stopped in the city of Napa. I would say 15, 20 years ago, people would just go right up into the wine regions of Yountville and St. Helena. This was largely due, in fact, to an issue that the city of Napa had, which was flood. So the county put in a flood control project into the southern Napa area, and it's really helped those businesses be able to prosper in this area. So in this area, you'll find the properties like Weston, the Embassy Suites is adjacent to downtown. The Andaz property is located in downtown Napa, the Archer Hotel, and lots of tasting rooms and restaurants, and also more of a nightlife-y feel. I consider the city of Napa for the clients that are young or young at heart, the people that want to go out after dinner and meander through town and have a cocktail or listen to some live music. That's kind of how I look at the city of Napa. More of the, there are a few bed and breakfasts. So if your clients like the bed and breakfast style properties, there's lots of them smattered along and around the downtown area. But that's kind of what I would see about the city of Napa. One other thing that's located here that I want to mention is the Oxbow Public Market. So this is a venue that has lots of different local purveyors, like a cheesery or an oyster bar, chocolatier, sushi bar, a brewery. So it's lots of local flair venue that you get to just meander, and it's a great thing if you have unscheduled time to just walk around through the downtown area, go to some of the tasting rooms, and then pop into the Oxbow Public Market for a lunch or a snack. Moving up valley a little bit is the Yountville location. This area has the highest per capita of Michelin stars than any other small region. Like I mentioned before, they have about 5,000 residents, and they have about 9 Michelin stars. The French Laundry is located here, as well as a few other restaurants. This area here is what I would consider great for the people that love food and love wine as well, kind of like the finer things in life, the people that know their wine, as well as you can get stay in a lot of very nice boutique properties here. There's the Bartisono property, that estate at Yountville that has the Vintage House and Hotel Bellagio. Thomas Keller, who is the chef at the French Laundry, has several other restaurants in that area. There's one new one, it's called La Calinda, which is a Mexican casual restaurant. There's also Michael Chiarello. He's a famous chef that has several restaurants there as well, one being the famous Bottega and Calcutta. What else can I say about the Yountville area? There are several of the balloon companies that launch out of Yountville, and they go down the valley through there. So now we'll move up to the St. Helena area. St. Helena, and it was actually where they founded the wineries, with the Beringer Winery, the Robert Mondavi, Charles Krug. This is where the heart of the wine region began. The downtown area, as you see here, is just a cute small town feel, quaint. I would suggest that this for an afternoon where you have some unscheduled time, go to a great restaurant that's there, and walk through the streets and do some window shopping or go into the boutiques and enjoy the small town feel. Now, Calistoga, back in the turn of the century, Calistoga was the location that the San Francisco Bay area used to utilize as their weekend escape. This area here is known for their mud baths. There's geothermal spring water that actually comes from the earth that some of the properties there actually pump into the pools, as you see here. So they come out of the earth at 120 degrees and it goes into the pool after it's filtered. And it's just a very, very relaxing area. The Solage property is located here. They're well known for their amazing spa and their mud bath treatment. As well, Indian Springs, it's a turn of the century, kind of what would you say, Palm Springsy type feel with palm trees and stuff. It's a great property to see. So be sure to look that one up if you haven't seen it before. And then, as you could tell from the video, like if you guys were to see that video and say a few words that it gave you a feeling of, as Lori mentioned earlier, the Napa Valley gives you a feeling of relaxation. As I was just talking with somebody a few days ago, and she was saying she misses the Napa Valley. When she last visited, she came up through the San Francisco through 80 highway, and as she started getting closer and closer to the Napa Valley, she just her shoulders went down and she started to feel more and more relaxed. There's the scenery that's here really gives you the feeling of serenity and laid back. Okay, so here we have the temperature range, and also I'll talk about the best times to visit the Napa Valley. For those of you on the call that might be anywhere past maybe Denver in the wintertime, you would know that a 57 degree on a high in January might be a good time to wear shorts. So even though for us it might be a little chilly, people from outside the area and coming from the East Coast would find 57 a pretty temperate weather. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Cabernet season. So Cabernet season runs from November through April, and somebody asked me recently, what is Cabernet season? What's the thought of that? And it's really, what it comes down to is just a better way to say winter. It's also the time that the chefs are making a little bit heartier of meals, and the Cabernet, which is our flagship wine from this region, it goes along better with those short ribs and steak dinners or the pastas. And then going into the grape growing season, which we are now, that would be April through August. And this is when the actual vines are, have some greenery on them and are starting to grow the grapes. And then the harvest season, of course, August through October, that's when they're pulling the grapes and the wine process begins. As you guys know, being travel agents, and you get a lot of requests for this time of year, a lot of people want to be in the Napa Valley at that time. And I don't blame them. It's good to try it once to get that bug out of your system, kind of like going to Mardi Gras. But it's a time frame that is oftentimes more crowded in the valley. And if your clients really want that authentic visit where they get to talk to a chef or they get to talk to a winemaker about how they make the wine, the lesser occupancy months are ideal for that because there's a lot more time on the calendar from those the chefs. It's also a better value. The Cabernet season clearly is the time frame that has a better value from late November all the way through April. It's where you're going to get more occupancy availability and probably a little bit more of a price value as well. Anytime you could stay off of a weekend to come to Napa Valley is ideal. If your clients want to go to the West Coast and do some road trip while they're in California, it's best for them, say, to come in on a Friday, visit in San Francisco, and then come up to the Valley on Sunday or Monday. Because we are still that Bay Area drive market location, the weekends are always more occupied than the weekdays. So moving into the hotel offerings. So we have about 130 properties. This is actually a private residence that you can rent. I think they have 7 bedrooms. There's a lot of those types of products in the Napa Valley. A bed and breakfast that has like 3 rooms, 7 rooms. If you have a group or a family traveling together, it's ideal, especially as we come out of this COVID world, that if people want to travel with their family and they kind of want to have a space for themselves, those smaller B&B type properties that are just located out of downtown or some just located a few blocks from, the restaurants and everything. It's great for them to have that private feeling of being in their home and also being away from home. So Napa Valley, what makes it so special in the wine region? So as you can see here, all these different colors, these are what is called American viticultural areas. So with Napa Valley being an actual valley, right, there's mountain ranges on the west side and there's mountain ranges on the east side. All of these regions, in order for an area to be considered an American viticultural area, it has to have a specific designation. So remember I talked earlier about the location only being 35 miles wide or in length. It's only 1 to 5 miles at its widest. So it's a very, very small area to have so many different distinct growing areas. So what makes a growing area distinct is the soil, the terrain, the altitude, the climate. All of those things make for the diversity in a AVA. So the fact that we have 16 of them in this small area is that adds to why we have such quality of wine coming out of the region. If you're at a restaurant and you see the wine is from Napa Valley, you might want to turn it to the back and kind of see what it says. It might say Oakville. That would be probably a Cabernet, and or Los Caneros. That's this region in the southern tip. So this is an area that's cooler. You're going to see Pinots or Chardonnay grapes come from this area. And even though Napa Valley is world renowned, only 4% of the California wine grape harvest comes from the Napa Valley. So all of those things layered together make the Napa Valley so special, and it makes the wine very, very, very good. Going into the experiences that your clients can have here, I know oftentimes I get, what can they do besides wine? There's lots of things for them to do besides wine. There's culinary, we'll get into a few other ones later, but there's often the valley gets really creative. So, even if somebody is not a wine drinker, if they go with the group that's going to Hess Winery and they do this ATV tour here. So they're going to be outdoors, they're going to see the beautiful countryside, and they're going to be able to have an experience, even though they may not, drink wine or enjoy wine. Just being in the Napa Valley and doing an experience, they'll enjoy that. We'll get into some other things that they could do later. Another thing that I wanted to point out here is art collections. In the Napa Valley, many of the winery owners love art themselves, like this one here. This is Hall Wine, and they have an art collection smattered throughout the whole winery. So even not going to see art specifically, your guests are going to be able to see it. Nearly, I would say probably 60% of the wineries in the Napa Valley have some form of a private art collection. Tours and transportations. There's so many ways for your clients to get around the Napa Valley without the need to drive. We recommend only 2 wineries in a day if they're going to drive themselves. We still recommend 2 or 3 wineries a day. One, because the experience at wineries is about an hour and a half. The wineries are open typically from 10 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. So that gives you the time frame to start a winery at 10:30, 10 o'clock, 10:30, go till noon, have a nice, beautiful, relaxing lunch, and then do a second tasting at like 3, and then go back to the hotel, relax for a little bit, and then go out to a dinner. So it usually works out to be pretty good timing if they do 2 wineries and a nice lunch. For tours companies, I've listed a few here. Verve, Napa Valley, Pure Luxury, Bow Wine Tours, California Wine Tours. I have some others if you need them. But those are people that are willing to work with you and talk with you about what your client's desires are, and do the whole tour, from the transportation to setting up the wine tours to recommending wine lunches, etc. So as far as getting around in the valley, you can go anywhere from a tuk-tuk here to the wine train that's listed, that's down here on the picture. The wine train is also a great venue. Sometimes people look at the price point as a high price point, but if you add in the fact that you have your transportation covered, you have, there's one tour that you do 3 wine tastings at wineries and a lunch. I think that's around $300. But if you add in all of those things separately, it works out to be a pretty good value for your clients. Napa Valley, like a local, this is kind of a travel trend right now, the authenticity of, going places that the locals go. There's many of those offerings in the Napa Valley. This one here, Oakville Grocery, it is pretty famous now because the secret is out, but it is a great spot for your guest if they want to cram in another wine tasting and don't want to take an elongated lunch. It's a great spot to get a quick lunch, take a little less time, and get back on the road. Also, each town has its own farmers market, so it's really good for your travelers to get out and see the farmers markets in each town and really see that the differences in produce from where they might be from. The Culinary Institute of America, I mentioned that earlier. We're super fortunate to have 2 of these located in the Napa Valley. It really draws on a high caliber of chefs in the area, as well. The location that's in the downtown Napa area, located right next to that Oxbow public market that I mentioned earlier. They really focus on the consumer, and they have daily cooking classes and demonstrations for both wine education and food education. Anywhere from the novice that just wants to know how to make a cocktail, all the way to a person that wants to spend a couple of days in an in-depth cooking boot camp. So it's a great location for people to stop at. I kind of recommend, a lot of times people get into town, at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They have a nice offering of a, how to wine taste in 90 seconds that they can take in the late afternoon to kind of just get them excited about their next few days in the Napa Valley. The culinary we kind of touched on earlier, but there's all kinds of culinary all throughout the area. Even some of the wineries do cooking classes themselves. My favorite one is cake bread. They do a cooking class that you can take. You get to the winery about 9:30. You and up to about 16 people put the meal together over the course of a couple hours with a chef and a sous chef. And then you sit down in the beautiful gardens there at Cake Bread and drink the wine and eat the meal that you prepared. Outdoors, everyone has been cooped up for several months now. So that is something I wanted to point out specifically about the Napa Valley. You saw the video earlier of all of the outdoor scenery. There's many different hiking areas throughout the valley. There's a vine trail that goes all the way from the American Canyon area all the way up to Yountville at this point. When it's completed, it will go all the way up to the Calistoga area. So that's a really nice area to meander down on a beach cruiser and just spend the day kind of going through the vineyards at your own pace. Of course, the balloon rides, if you have never done one, to be honest, I was a little nervous and I finally did one a couple months ago. And there's absolutely nothing to be afraid of. I have a little bit of a fear of heights myself, and just know that just don't look straight down, just look out, and it's a beautiful, beautiful experience. Other things to do out in the vineyards is yoga, and you could kayak or paddleboard on the river. And then, of course, the golf in the area. We have the PGA rated courses at Silverado Resort. And then there's several others that are in the valley. Wellness, I know we all, even though we've been cooped up for some reason, we have a lot of stress right now. And can you imagine being in that pool? I can. I'd love to get a massage, and there's so many of the resorts in the valley that are known and favored for their spa treatments. A lot of every one of the 5-star resorts, like Calistoga Ranch, Meadowood, Auberge du Soleil, Carneros Resort, Bardessono, and the Las Ocobas resorts all have very, very high-end luxury spa experiences. And so it's very much a destination for wellness. So resources for us, I'm not always available 24/7, and I know we're always working late hours. If you have a client that you're trying to get some information on the Napa Valley, say 10 o'clock on a Sunday when we all think about our work week beginning, you feel free to go on to visitnapavalley.com and the travel trade pages. There's lots of different ideas for you to think of for itineraries for your clients, maybe a girls' getaway or a romance itinerary, all kinds of resources on our website. As well, post-COVID, the main factor, I know that the hotels and wineries and the restaurants recently got their green light to reopen their businesses. But most, a lot of them are taking their time to really work through their protocols and make sure that, their properties and wineries and restaurants are ready for their guests and tourists once they reopened their doors. We do have on our website an area that's post-COVID that will talk about all the protocols that the wineries and the hotels are going through to get ready for the reopenings as well. There's an area on our website that talks about all that's reopened already. And then that is all I have for you guys. Once again, my name is Teresa. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'm happy to help you piece together an itinerary. I think the most important factor in the Valley, because a lot of people outside of the Valley talk with their friends and they come up with a list of wineries that they want to go to that are 35 miles apart, and we really want to make sure that they enjoy their time here. So I'm happy to piece together a logistically sound itinerary to make sure that they're maximizing their time and exposure and still being able to relax a little while they're here. And that's all I have, Lori. Back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Teresa, for sharing that fabulous presentation. I am ready to go back to Napa Valley. So just before we get into some of the questions here, so we were so fortunate to have Teresa. Teresa normally does these presentations to other agents, but I reached out to her, and so she agreed to do it for me and my client. So I will tell you, Teresa put her information on the screen. Just come straight to me, and I'll reach out to Teresa for you. So it was fabulous. I'm ready to go back. Really quick story about all the great restaurants in Yountville. French Laundry is known as one of, like, I would say, one of the greatest restaurants in the world, if not the country. And I was in the area and I took a picture in front of French Laundry. I didn't go there at all. Took a picture and I posted it, and one of my friends said, "Oh, Lori, I'm so jealous. You ate at French Laundry." And I didn't have the heart to tell him that I just took a picture in front of it.
He doesn't need to know that.
Yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't say I ate there. I just took a picture in front of French Laundry because they had their own garden, they grow their food outside. So we just went walking through and it was really nice. So anyhow, we have some questions. I'm going to turn this over to Donna now, who is our moderator, and I'm going to let her go through the questions that the folks on the line have. So thank you, Donna.
Alrighty, so does any of the wine tasting events take place in a castle?
Yes, there is a castle. It's called Castello de Amorosa, and they are up in the Calistoga area. It's literally like a castle that's in the Europe. The owner of the castle actually piecemealed and brought in every piece of that castle to make from Europe, and it's significant. You have to go there. It's beautiful.
Are there any wine making classes?
Winemaking classes. I don't believe there's winemaking classes. There's probably different times of the year you could do a winery tour where they teach you about the process of the wine being made. Even if the grapes aren't there, they still go through, they show you the different machinery, they show you where the vineyards are, and they explain the whole process to you.
Okay. Are there any wine tasting events at night, and what time does the winery close?
At that specific winery or in general?
I would say in general.
Okay, yeah. A lot of the wineries do events throughout the year. A lot of them are geared around their members. So when you go to a winery, they oftentimes, pose their club memberships to you, and the benefits of those is not only getting the wine either quarterly or biannually, but it's also being able to go to their events at a discount. And so there's during probably from June through October, there's probably a half a dozen to a dozen events every weekend at different wineries. So like I mentioned earlier, there's about 400 wineries, and from Napa to Calistoga, there's things going on all the time.
I remember one of my favorite evening events was the Mondavi Winery has a, well, at least
Mhm.
when I was, I don't know if they still do it.
Concert.
Mondavi has yeah, they have a summer concert series,
Yes.
and we saw India RE one evening. So just imagine, just in the winery, in the vineyard, and India RE singing at night. It was magical. It was
Yeah.
magical. It was
And don't
wonderful.
forget you're drinking beautiful Napa Valley wine as you're sitting
Yes, yeah,
there.
yeah. So it was like picnic style. So we're in the vineyards. Everyone has the blankets out. Everyone brought their own. You can bring your own food, but you had to, of course, drink Mondavi wine. We had
Yes.
to buy the wine
Oh,
for them.
if I must.
My mud, which was great because it was discounted as well. So you bought the wine from Mondavi, but you brought your picnic, your own food, and everyone was just sharing food, and it was really beautiful. That's one of my favorite evening experiences. But that is only during the summer. Yeah,
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, Lori. That's one of mine
yeah.
too. I've lived in the Napa Valley for about 8 years, and I just did that last summer. And I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? So
Hmm.
beautiful.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, Donna.
Can we get to actually see the process of winemaking?
Yes, during the time frame of the harvest. So
Mm-hmm.
some of the wineries do allow the tours are geared around watching the process. Clearly, winemaking takes a lot of time, right? So you'll just
Mm-hmm.
see one part of that process, but they'll talk about all the different parts of it. And there's even like Gergich Hills that will allow you to do the grape stomp, like Lucille Ball. Everybody wants to do that, right? So they, in like September, October frame, they allow that process of doing the grape stomp.
Viticultural AVA, please share what that means and the significance.
Yes, I touched on that a little bit earlier. The viticultural area, the AVA is American Viticultural Area. So on the slide I had the pictures of the different areas and color coded. So there's actually 16 different AVAs in the Napa Valley. And what that is it's a distinguishable difference, right? So you can have a Cabernet grape, same crop, different, like literally from 5 feet away, right? So this area is considered the Rutherford AVA, and that is considered the Oakville AVA. And it's really, really amazing because in order to be considered a different AVA, you have to have a significance in the soil, the climate, and the sun. So say you had an area that was on the west facing hill, and then on the east facing hill, right? So as you know, the sun kind of comes at different times throughout the day and has different strengths. So um, it's a distinguishing difference, right? Like the same grape can be grown in different AVAs and it will taste different. So I hope I'm explaining that right. Does that make sense, Lori?
Yeah, it does to me. A lot goes into the winemaking process and the taste of a wine. So, like you said, if you have a Chardonnay grape, but the soil is more or less rocky, or the soil gets more sun, or the area gets more or less sun, those nuances can really impact the taste of the wine. So that's what's one of the things that's very unique about the Napa Valley area. It's such a small area, but there's so many differences, and like you said, in sunlight and soil, and things of that nature that gives it the depth and breadth of different types of wine that can come from the area.
Yes,
And
what Lori said.
and our last question is, are spa treatments like massages available in the hotels, resorts, or are they separate?
um, there are some standalone spas, but the majority of the spas in the Napa Valley are located in the resort properties. As I mentioned earlier, the five-star resorts, but also like the Marriott, Napa Valley Marriott, the Silverado Resort, the Meritage Resort. they all have spas as well.
And how long is the hot air balloon ride?
It's typically about an hour, so 45 minutes to an hour and 15, depending on the wind and typically there are times where it's too windy and they can't go up, but it just depends on how much the wind guides them. But I would say 45 minutes to an hour and 15. A lot of them include a brunch afterwards. So you can do your balloon ride and then go back. Like Domaine Chandon is one location that they do a brunch after one of the rides, and you can have your beautiful lunch brunch with Bubbles at Domaine Chandon.
Okay, Lori, there's a bunch of us that want a balloon ride, so you're going to
I
put that
know,
as an
it's
Oh, I
great.
talked it up, did I?
We have to make that
Yeah.
an extension.
Okay, there we go. Well, that's easy to do. I'll make that an optional tour because that happens early in the morning.
Yeah.
So for those who want to do the balloon ride, you really do get up before sunrise. So you get up early so you see the sunrise while you're in the balloon. So I haven't done it in Napa Valley, but it's one of the things that's been on my bucket list to do. And so that's great.
And that's a good point, Lori, because like this time of year, the sun comes out at like 5:45 a.m. In the November, March timeframe, it's more like 6:30. So the different times of the year changes the time that the balloon rides take off. So just your clients need to be early risers. Or they can come to my house. All my animals will wake them up when the light goes up, so they'll be fine.
Okay, Teresa, how early are we talking?
Well, like this time of year when it's bright, when the sunlight is at 5:40, 5:50, then they need to be at the location at probably 5:30 in the morning or 5. In the months where the sun rises like 7:15, then they need to be there about 6:30, 6:45. So it fluctuates throughout the year depending on when sun rises. So if you're ever curious and you want to be sure, just Google like sunrise Napa Valley June 21st, 2021. It'll tell you and you can get a gauge.
Okay. I think there's also a question about the wine train. So can you tell us more about the whole wine train experience?
Yeah, so Wine Train has multiple experiences. When they're full bore, I know they're not running just yet. They'll be reopening soon, but at their full capacity, they have probably 6 or 7 different offerings through the day. They have one that you just take up and back and you're on the train and you have lunch. And then there's others that have 1 winery or 2 wineries or 3 wineries included in the package. And then they also have a dinner certain times of the year in the daylight savings months, probably June through October, where there's where you can see the valley in the evening. They do dinner tours as well. And that departs out of downtown Napa. So some of the properties that are close by there that your guests could stay at and not have to drive to the venue or take Uber is the Westin and Napa River Terrace Inn. They're located right across the street. And some of the hotels do what do you call it? Wine tour packages as well.
Okay, great.
So you can have your hotel and the wine tour included together.
Lori, there's actually a question for you. What time of year are you thinking about going to Napa?
I was thinking, and this is where I'll need some input from you guys, so either put it in the chat or feel free to email me afterwards. I was thinking of the spring of next year, like maybe sometime between March and May, where, like Teresa was saying, it's before it gets really, really crowded there. probably more like May, June, actually, before it really gets crowded, and the weather is still nice. So that's what I was thinking of. Additionally, because I wanted to couple the trip with San Francisco, so fly in and out of San Francisco, Oakland, do a couple days in the Bay Area, and then come to Napa and maybe spend 3 to 4 nights in Napa. So that's what I was envisioning. And for those of you who don't know, San Francisco is cold in the summertime. Yeah, I mean, even though it's hot here in the East Coast, June, July, and August, San Francisco is chilly. I don't know, who said it? Edgar Allan Poe? I don't know. Or
It's
Robert
called
Frost.
June gloom. June
Yeah,
gloom.
yeah,
So it's
they
really
said,
layered.
yeah, they said the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco.
Yes.
So, so San Francisco is chilly in the summertime. So, I was thinking of the spring. So let me know if that worked with you guys. And also it aligns with kind of my methodology for doing travel next year. I know with COVID and people concerned about traveling on big international trips early in the year, I wanted to do kind of like the US based travel early in the year, and I'll sprinkle it throughout as well. But I was envisioning doing this in probably the spring part of the year. So let me, but I'm willing to do whatever you guys want. So let me know if you have other ideas. Okay.
And
And
there's
then just,
go ahead.
oh yeah, and then for Teresa, what do people typically, how many days do people typically spend? Like 3, 4 nights? Like what? It's not, you don't spend like a whole week in the Napa Valley area typically. Is that correct?
You can.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, a minimum 2 nights, of course, but 3 or 4 nights is ideal because then you can experience some of the different areas. Because each town, like I kind of talked about earlier, has its own personality. And like you could stay in Napa and go up to Calistoga for the day and kind of get a feel for that area. Or you could stay in Napa, drive over, have some wine tasting in Sonoma. But 3 nights minimum, 4 nights ideal, or 2 nights minimum, right? Because you'll get in, especially when people are coming from the East Coast, they're not going to get into Napa until mid to late afternoon. Then they have a full day of the tour and dinner, and then they have to leave the next day. So I think 2 nights is not even ideal because
Right.
they want
Yeah.
to spend at least 2 full days or 3 full days because getting to and from airports and stuff. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about 4 just off the top of my head, but I haven't planned a trip yet. But just for you guys, this is kind of this is a treat. This is a trip where you want to stay in nice hotels, you want to eat nice food. It's all about just living the good life. So just think about this trip as being my special treat to California, and it's about living a good life. That's how I would call it. Okay.
So,
So any,
Lori, there's a question for you.
mhm.
Would you be planning this right before Ghana? Because the Ghana trip is we're doing it July 28th through August 8th.
Yeah, that's what my goal was to plan it before Ghana. Um, so that, yes, so to answer that question, that was my plan.
Okay. And is there transportation for an excursion to San Francisco? But according to what you're saying, Lori, you're going to stay in San Francisco and then we're going to travel over to Napa?
Yeah, so I would combine this with, like I said, like say if this is a whole week trip, if you got like 4 nights in Napa, you can do like 2 or 3 nights in San Francisco. So you would fly in and out of San Francisco or Oakland and definitely spend some time in the city. So yeah.
But Teresa, is there transportation that would, like, if you stayed in Napa and you wanted to go to San Francisco, like
Yeah,
if Lori did the trip for vice versa, is there transportation?
there are the companies that I put on the screen earlier, like Verve or Pure Luxury or California Wine Tours and Beau. They both can do both.
Hmm. It's only an hour away, so it's
Yeah.
not it's not far.
And to be honest, like downtown San Francisco, it's only 45 minutes because you're not contending with the bridge. The airport is further south from San Francisco.
Okay.
Alrighty, ladies, that is the end of our questions.
Okay. All right, so if that's the end of the questions, I would say if you guys think of something else, you can always email me. You have my email address. I'll be working on putting together trips over the next couple of weeks or so. So, tap me, send me some messages if you think the timing that I'm thinking of is good or bad. I'm flexible. I want to do it whenever the most number of people are are available. If you don't even want to wait to next year, you want to go out this year, hey, you don't have to
Come
tell
on
me twice.
down.
You don't have to tell me twice because Napa is beautiful in November and December as well. And like Teresa said, they're opening up now. But now I personally think it's a little soon because I think you still will be, you still have to wear masks and things of that nature. But if we wait a few months, we'll see how things are going. So feel free to email me your suggestions or your comments of what you would like to see in a trip. And I want to make this something that you guys will enjoy. I want to thank Donna for being our moderator today. Thank you for managing our questions. Thank you so much, Donna. And then last but not least, thank you, Teresa, for your time today and sharing your knowledge. It was fabulous. I've been to Napa Valley more times than I count, but I've learned so much through your presentation today. So thank you for joining us, and I look forward to working with you as I put together this trip for my clients.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Lori and Donna, for the opportunity to talk today.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you. All right, and then to the rest of you guys, come back next week. We are continuing with the webinar series. Next week, we are going to Arizona and the Grand Canyon. So we're sticking with the theme of U.S.-based trips. So next Wednesday, the same time, 1 o'clock Eastern, come join us, and we will be talking about Arizona and the Grand Canyon. Thank you. Have a great day, and see you next week. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.